Bitrate, we have a green box, we have a live counter, so we should be live or very soon will be.
Oh, hello there, everyone. We're
Oh,
live,
yeah.
and I have returned. So I have no idea what that awful thing in the corner is doing. It's been hiding for quite a while, and it's just like I'm I'm kind of afraid of about why it had to come back when I did, but sometimes these things can't be avoided. Anyway, we're talking about shonen protagonists today.
Mm.
It's just the usual crew.
Yep.
Uh,
The main
Camille and
crew, as
Jack.
it were.
I'm the guest on today's podcast, and be careful. It has returned. That horrible, unspeakable thing that lurks in the
Look out!
corner with a
Has a
knife.
knife.
I mean, I do expect you to fillet some protagonists today.
Oh, I look forward to it. Look, you can defend Hunter x Hunter all you want, but
Oh no, fuck
the
you!
protag is
I'm fucking defending going to the hill.
not the
No,
best part of
fuck,
that series.
no, fuck you! I'm defending going to the hill. I don't care.
I mean, he's basically just a cute little puppy.
He's a cute little puppy who will rip your head off without a second thought.
He's a cute little puppy, but he's also only about as smart as one.
I mean, you look at the vast array of
Look,
shonen protagonists, and can you say any different for any of them?
look.
Really depends, honestly.
Protagonist of Fairy Tale is probably smarter than Gon.
I don't think that's fair to go.
As we've established, I really dislike Hunter x Hunter. But because
Yeah.
I'm inarticulate, my arguments are poked holes in, even though they're perfectly valid criticisms, I'm just bad at stating them.
Like, I can accept
I
some of
mean,
your criticisms, but I will not accept them on Gon. Gon is a good shonen protagonist.
man,
He's
we're starting off
barely a
spicy already.
character. He's a plot device.
Again, I call bull.
I'm staying out of this one. I don't know enough about Hunter x Hunter.
So this is basically going to be the going to be how this podcast goes, us either arguing or agreeing about certain protagonists, because we don't really know exactly how to
Well,
structure this properly.
let's at least start by saying talking about shown protagonists and what makes one conventional versus unconventional. That
So
could be a good place to start.
I feel like an unconventional shonen protagonist is one that is like a
Smart.
well-written character. And not really
I mean,
smart. Yuji's a good shonen protagonist, and he's kind of an idiot.
well, I think most shonen protagonists, like at least the conventional ones, draw from the mold of Dragon Ball Son Goku in some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And like the big defining traits of such shonen protagonists are pure of heart, dumb of ass, naturally, likes food a lot, usually very strong, and some degree of moral righteousness. And usually they have some sort of big dream or ambition that they want to fulfill.
Yeah.
Now, but that's not necessarily not every shonen protagonist has to fill out all of those characteristics to be considered a conventional one. But most of them most conventional shonen protagonists meet at least the majority of those character beats.
Yeah, so those are the conventional traits. The traits for a good one, the traits for a bad one generally are the same as that and involve nothing else.
Yes.
Certainly in my mind. They stick to those traits and never change. The good ones have depth.
And you were saying Gon was a good one.
He has depth.
He's one note.
He's not.
Okay, fine. He's got like 2 notes. We'll talk about that in You know what? Let's just start with the big 3.
Okay.
Very easy place to start.
Naruto,
So-
one note.
Naruto, I don't think it's really fair to call him one note. He does develop as a character, it's just not all that much.
So Naruto is a very Nart, and that series in general is kind of it's a bell curve. Well, not even a bell curve. It's a parabola.
Yes.
It's an inverted parabola. What I mean by that is that the series and the characters develop until sometime in the post time skip arc, and then they start to backpedal hard.
I don't know about backpedaling is the right word, but they do stop growing at a certain point.
I mean,
Backpedaling is more thematically, i.e., the protagonist whose entire thing was that he was not some sort of chosen one with
Yeah. But
who won the genetic lottery, and then it turned out he was a chosen one who won the genetic lottery.
Yeah, but that's not really anything to do with
Oh no, but like the as a function of those themes and those story beats, the characters kind of are subject to them.
Oh yeah. No,
I'm
not disagreeing.
I'm still trying to figure out how Naruto actually develops past the person he was in the first, 3 chapters of Naruto.
Part of it is just him growing in status and reputation and maturity to a degree, at least up through the pain arc. After that, though, it's like they spend a third of the fucking manga just on one giant ass war arc.
That is incredibly boring.
Yeah. We can talk more about Naruto's failings on another date, but
we do have the roast.
Naruto...
We do have the roast of Not scheduled.
Well, so here's the thing: we can talk about the failings of Nart the series at a later date, but Nart the person that we're talking about his criticisms is what we're criticizing him is what we're here for.
I will say, with regards to Naruto, of the big 3 protagonists, he's about middle of the road in terms of characterization and development. He does change a little bit, and he does at least have an appreciable ambition and desire that comes from an actual place of a place that makes sense due to his childhood isolation.
And then when he kind of achieves that desire in spirit but not in letter, he kind of just becomes
stops developing. Yeah.
Not even then. I'm pretty sure you could even make an argument that he stopped being the outcast before even the time skips happened.
It wasn't as notable up until the the end of the pain arc, because that was the big.
His whole thing was that he was an outcast, except he never really was.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I argue that he was never really an outcast, considering the fact that he always had people talking to him, basically from the start.
That's more of an issue on the author's ability to do show don't tell, though.
No. The thing about that is that a lot of the problems with Nart as a character come from the fact that Kishimoto is an absolutely incompetent writer. I can see what he was going for with the character, but the character is essentially a collection of tropes, gags, and the power of friendship.
Yeah.
Still, he is better than Ichigo.
Cannot comment.
I don't know that I'd agree with that.
My issue with Ichigo is that he has very little. He has almost nothing resembling a character arc, and he has almost no
that's what I was going to say, is that Ichigo is he's not a character, really. He is very much a plot. However, I I think to me, I just find the basic frame of the character less irritating than the basic skeleton of Nart.
I mean, part of the issue with Ichigo is he does have one similar issue with Naruto, like the whole special lineage bullshit. How many things is Ichigo a hybrid of again? Like 4?
He's literally, there are 4 species in the Bleach universe, and he is a hybrid of all 4 of them.
Which is some fucking bullshit.
If you develop more power-ups than you do as a character, you're a bad character.
Mm-hmm.
Trying really hard to not make this about Hunter x Hunter right now.
Please don't. I'd rather talk about Luffy, the good
Who is
shonen
a good
protagonist.
So
See,
I
Luffy
will
has
say this
this-
about Luffy. He's a good
No,
shonen
go for it.
protagonist, but he's a real late bloomer.
Honestly, I don't agree at all. He starts coming into his own as early as Arlong Park.
So,
Was he?
yes and no. So the thing about Arlong Park versus development like later in the series is that from a character standpoint, until about Fishman Island, Luffy's thing is kind of Gon-like. In that he has people he identifies as close to him, and he'll do whatever he can for them. But that's about it. He doesn't really care outside of like the people he likes.
I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It marks
It's
him as a bit
well-
morally different from other shonen protagonists.
well, I would say that's not really the thing. The thing is that like that doesn't change until much later in the series. That's
Well,
what I meant. Is that he
so
is like he does kind of the flavor he establishes at the beginning of the series when he agrees to rescue Zoro if he joins him is basically the same person he stays until like much later in the series.
I think you were making the mistake that a lot of people do of confusing a character development with the character growth. Because Luffy doesn't experience a lot of character growth in the first half of the series. He does experience a bit of it, but not a lot up until like
Well, what
The
would
mo-
you define
the
as his?
orc
It
saga.
might be a
it's
difference
him
in
coming to
definition.
the
What would you
realization
define
that
as? What would you define as development? Pre-time skip
development
then.
is fleshing out a character, going into depth as to who they are, what they do, and where they come from.
Yeah,
So
even
what-
by that definition, I don't really see it that much.
I do.
Another
Because
thing,
I mean,
Oh.
certainly what got me really interested in Luffy was the fact that certainly for the first, 3 arcs, he's, a pretty, standard happy-go-lucky shonen protagonist, and then in Alabasta, suddenly he is, especially, actually in Alabasta, in the desert, talking to Vivi, he suddenly becomes this serious guy who is like, yeah, no, people are gonna die, this is war, there's nothing you can do about that, like, so you gotta do this properly sort of thing.
Luffy's wiser than people give him credit for,
Mm.
and he's pretty insightful. But another thing about Luffy that is, I don't think people talk about enough is, I don't think Oda ever shows Luffy's internal monologue. Luffy is very much an expressive character who you have to experience externally because you do not see his internal monologue at all. Which I think is really fucking bold of Oda, and honestly, props to him for pulling that off.
I mean, another another. I would say this is growth as well. Is post Water 7, post Enies Lobby is, yes, it's forced by Zoro, but the realization that yes, he does have. In situations like with Usopp, he has to be the captain.
Yes, he does have to put his foot down occasionally.
And put his foot down, yeah.
And of course, there's his big moment post Marineford where he just realizes just how weak he really is in the grand scheme of things, and resolves to get stronger, both for the sake of his dream and for the sake of his crew.
Also at I can't even remember the name of the islands. The one just before Marineford.
Amazon Lily?
Sabaudi, that's it. The realization that they weren't strong enough to take on, Kizaru,
Kuma,
Sumo Palm Person, and that they did have to run.
This is a guy who challenged a fucking warlord.
Yeah.
To be fair, of the two warlords he challenged, one was the weakest one, and the other one was got so cocky that he shot himself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he also challenged very early on the strongest warlord to be.
Mihawk.
No, God Emperor Buggy.
True.
He also did
time.
He did.
Let's be real. God Emperor Buggy wasn't even trying.
Yep.
Luffy did also pick a fight with Kuzan, Aokiji, when they met.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's always funny to me why that didn't impact him more than it did.
I mean, I think it did. I think it made him realize the strength of admirals, and when Kizaru suddenly popped up, that was the realization for him.
Yeah, it also led to Luffy gaining his gears for the first time. He realized after Aokiji, you know what? I need to get stronger.
Yeah.
Time to gear up. But yeah, Luffy is a very good shonen protagonist in my mind.
I mean, another bit of development that only sort of twigged with me recently after seeing somebody else mention it, and it only happened sort of recently. Luffy's big thing is that heroes have to share food, and that's why he doesn't want to be a hero.
And then that was the big bit of development I was talking about, yes.
In Wano, yeah. He shares the food. Which, doesn't seem like much.
Specifically, it's meat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as we all know, is considerably different.
I also love how his Lancer Zoro thinks along the exact same lines. Where it's just almost the exact same lines. Zoro doesn't want to share booze.
Yeah.
I mean, Zoro and Luffy are literally, I'm surprised they're not related.
Something I've seen mentioned recently in a video on characters in One Piece is basically how the core Romance Dawn trio of Luffy, Zoro, and Nami form a really interesting power trio of Luffy, of Zoro basically being the support complement to Luffy, while Nami is the contrast and voice of reason. And
except when money's involved.
Nami is the voice of reason as long as money isn't involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still find that interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they are basically, they are the main trio. They are almost the main characters of One Piece.
Yeah.
Certainly, I'm fairly sure Oda sees them that way.
He does. He has said in an interview that they are the three main, I think the word was triggers.
Yeah.
For the series.
Well, I mean, in an SBS, when somebody asked him to draw the 6 main characters with his left hand, he only drew 3, and it was those 3.
Yeah.
Those 3 are the ones that he focuses on.
Found the video. I'm gonna post it in our main server. But anyways,
but yeah, I think
is a really strong shonen protagonist in terms of just like his character and his dynamic with the rest of the cast.
Yeah, and I think by talking about Luffy, we have sort of outlined what we believe to be a good shonen protagonist.
I will say that's not necessarily. It's not that all good shonen protagonists must meet the standards of Luffy, because that's hard. That's very difficult.
No,
I mean, if we were doing a tier list of shonen protagonists, Luffy would be S tier.
Luffy has his own tier.
Yes. No, we're not saying that, you know, they all have to reach Luffy levels to be considered good, but, you know, that base sort of, they have to have some depth, they have to have, you know, noticeable character growth, and development, that sort of thing.
But
so are we going to move on to the? Are we going to move on to the
Goku.
next? Okay, we can talk about Goku.
Goku kind of, unfortunately, Goku kind of suffers from the fact that he was the center of the archetype. You know, the Seinfeld effect,
yeah,
as it were.
So Goku is dumbed down Sun Wukong.
Okay, no. Let's. So OG Dragon Ball Goku, I think is a fairly decent protagonist.
I'd argue he was pretty good all the way through the Frieza saga.
I think Z is where he starts to stagnate. Because not only is there just, you know, so high for him to go, he also just stops showing up as much.
Yeah.
And therefore stops getting the opportunities to grow.
To be fair, kind of a better series when he doesn't show up at that point.
There's also that. I mean, do we want to talk about, you know, as Deuteragonists for Z, Gohan and Vegeta?
We can talk about them. We could probably also get away with talking about Piccolo a little bit.
They are basically the core 4 characters, unless you want to count Krillin as rounding out at 5.
No, Krillin's outside.
Krillin is...
Yeah.
You just have to look at the people who actually get to do stuff in the later arcs. Krillin is not one of them. Even Piccolo isn't really one of them, but yeah.
And even Tien is more of a main character than Krillin by the time the Cell Saga rolls around.
Yeah, but that's mostly
Krillin
because
is actually pretty prominent in the Cell Saga.
Yeah, but he doesn't get in fights that he knows he can't win. Is the difference. By the Cell Saga, Krillin has realized that he is so horrendously outmatched that anytime he walks into a fight with somebody, he's probably going to die. Tien refused to make that realization until after Boo. Krillin had his moment on Namek of, oh god, these people are so much stronger than me, I can't do this anymore.
So here's the thing, right? I think Tien also realized it, he's just more mad about it.
Oh no, he's furious about it, and he's incredibly stubborn about it.
He got handed to TFS for nailing that bit in the Cell Saga.
Yeah.
Where he just Kiko hose Cell into the ground.
Knowing that it's going to do the sum of jack shit, but he's still gonna do it.
I mean, it distracts him for about, 3 minutes. Which, quite frankly,
is long enough.
Yeah, it was enough, to be fair.
It's more than most of the other characters could have managed by that point in the series, let's be real.
I mean, Krillin did have one last shot of trying to be relevant, and his hopes broke the way his Destructo did on Cell's neck. So...
Yeah. It says a lot that Krillin is more relevant after the Cell Saga for his role in turning Android 18 over to the good guy's side.
Yeah.
But
But
going
yes.
back to Goku, like he does develop a little bit as a character across Dragon Ball, and he does have some really great moments in the course of that series. But
No,
he starts
he definitely
stagnating for
develops it. He definitely develops in OG Dragon Ball. As I said, it's just that he very much stagnates from Z onwards. Like
Mhm.
what again? He develops more power ups than he does as a character in Z.
I'd argue that's worse than Super.
I mean, obviously it's worse than Super, but because by then, like, there is nowhere for him to go. If
Well,
he
to be
if he
fair-
changes from there, he's not Goku anymore.
Well, no, the
That's
thing.
some good
Do you know what's
moments,
very interesting about Super? You can say a lot of things about Super. What's kind of interesting about Super is that in Super, he kind of becomes the bad guy,
Yeah.
which is at least it's like a change
Yeah.
to some extent.
I also do like that he does take on different dynamics with different characters sometimes. Like he has a really neat dynamics with Caulifla and Frieza during the Tournament of Power arc.
You mean he wants to bang them both? Yes.
Goku's bisexual, yes, we know.
Like, the man had more chemistry with the cauliflower than he does with his own wife.
Well,
He has more chemistry with Frieza than he does with his own wife.
I mean, that's mostly Toriyama's fault for not knowing how to write women.
Also, please stop mentioning that. You're making me think of the Goku X Frieza porn comic I unfortunately had to see.
Okay, no one made you read that.
I didn't read it. I just saw it, and it's burned into my brain. Why would I read it?
Curiosity of the
No,
morbid variety.
I'm not that curious. I have problems with my cat-like curiosity. That was not one of them.
That's fair.
Like,
But yeah.
you saw the punch scene, right? Where they, like, fisted each other.
Yes.
Like,
That was
really,
funny.
like they were undressing each other with their eyes. Well, Frieza's already naked, but you know what I mean.
I mean, to be fair, Goku, as we've said, is bisexual, and he just has a habit of accumulating rivals just like so easily.
So yeah,
Like-
are we going to talk about Gohan, Vegeta, and Piccolo?
We could talk about
Yes,
them briefly.
okay, yeah. So,
At least in how the
Gohan
contrast
is
goes.
probably one of the biggest disappointments in Shonen history.
Yeah, Toriyama just didn't know what to do with him after Cell.
Well, no, Toriyama knew what to do with him, and then people decided
Chickened
that
out.
the Buu Saga needed to happen. And yes, he chickened out. I'm pretty sure by the time the Cell Saga rolled around, if he'd put his foot down, probably could have gotten away with a lot more with Gohan than he did, but I'm pretty sure he just chickened out because and then
Well, I also am pretty sure he wanted to end it at Cell, and then
look, there's
he,
there's I know that that's the constant joke. I'm pretty sure it's true to some extent, but I'm not sure to what extent it's true.
fair.
Let's be real though.
It is mostly speculation.
Gohan's character development would be a lot better if it had ended at Cell.
Yeah. Really good ending point for his character arc. And then Buu undoes a lot of that.
Buu undid a lot of that, and then Super undid even more.
To an extent, it would also be a fairly decent endpoint for Vegeta as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Hey, to be fair, yeah, no, because he kind of wasn't really evil by the end of Cell. He was just kind of a dick, but then he went like back to being evil.
well, that's the thing. He made the realization of, hey, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep up, and actually tried to be a father to an extent in those 8 years, and then suddenly Boo comes around, and because they have to have Vegeta do something, it's just like, well, okay, he's evil again. And to be fair, it leads to the great suicide explosion moment. But
That iconic scene, yeah.
It's just, like, I'm
he
gonna be honest with
backtracked.
you.
He backtracked at the start of that arc.
I really like the fact that it was completely pointless, and that the fact that... So, here's the thing. If it wasn't entirely accidental, his sacrifice was completely pointless, that would have been an incredibly poignant moment. But like, I'm pretty sure Oda was just like... oh god, I'm blaspheming the god of shonen manga. I'm pretty sure Toriyama was just like, well, that was a good moment, but I can't really end it there, so it nothing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Also, if Oda is the god of shonen manga, who's the devil? Is it Araki?
No, it's Mashima.
Fair.
No. It's,
I mean, I picked Araki as the fellow immortal of the two.
Ah, yeah, that's fair.
No,
but I would say
because like...
Mashima.
No. Araki is neither a god nor devil. He's the squid.
He's
Araki
Cthulhu.
He's the Cthulhu of shonen manga.
The cryptid.
Yes, no, that's a very apt description of Araki. Now,
Every so often he shows up with a new part of JoJo's and a new JoJo to add to the collection.
Woohoo, JoJo Land's coming up sometime in the next several months. I wonder how the fuck that's gonna go.
in the same way that Josuke was saved by time traveling himself, but that never got resolved. It's like probably like that.
Should we just talk about the JoJos at this point?
Yes, we do have to talk about the JoJos.
Once we talk about the JoJos, we should move on to the new gen as well.
But yeah,
New gen, there's a lot
JoJos.
more to talk about.
But yes, we can talk about JoJo's first.
So let's go down the list of JoJos in chronological order, from part 1 through 5 at least, because that's what I'm familiar with.
Jonathan,
And
bland
I
as
can go.
fuck.
Jonathan unfortunately suffers from the bland as fuck nice guy from the 80s syndrome.
The 1880s.
Yes, but no. Jonathan is basically Jesus.
Mm.
It's like it's
It's also a good thing he didn't live past when he was, because he would have so many health issues for getting that muscular that young.
Ah, yes, the incredibly buff 12-year-old. I forgot about that little aspect of his existence.
Yeah, no, he would have had so many, like, his arthritis would have been out of this world.
Yeah, but, like, also, he does have magical breathing powers. Like, I don't know if you know this, but, like, he was real good at breathing.
How?
So was Joseph. It didn't help with his senility.
Yeah, but, like, he was buff until he was, like, 70, so, you know, it helped a little. It kind of helped a lot, actually. Joseph didn't turn senile until, like, age 80, age 90, which, you know...
Yeah.
Pretty good! Like,
Yeah.
did you see him in part 3? He was jacked!
Yeah, no. He was like in his 60s at the time.
Like, almost 70, yeah.
Are we taking that as a sign to move on to Joseph, or do we actually have anything else to say about Jonathan?
We really do.
No.
Well, I mean...
He
Jonathan
got 44
kind of...
chapters. Like, what is there to discuss about him? And
so
Dio got
Jonathan
most of the
was
screen
kind
time.
So, Jonathan was a pioneer in the, genre of shonen protag, antag, homoerotic subtext.
That's fair.
Right?
Oh, yeah,
like,
no. That subtext... Also, I'm pretty sure Dio is canonically bisexual.
So
Oh, he
Dio
is.
is not only canonically bi, he canonically wanted to bang Jonathan.
Yep.
That does not surprise me in the slightest.
I mean, like... Okay, let's put it this way. Of the many... Dio had a lot of flings in his life, many of which resulted in children. But the only two people he has professed to like actually having like a romantic emotional attachment to were men. And that's
Also-
excluding Jonathan.
Also, I should point out, incredibly boring children.
Well, no.
We'll get to
Giorno is very
Giorno.
boring.
We'll get to Giorno in a bit.
The ones in part 6 were villains and kind of wacky, so they were at least a bit interesting.
Okay, moving on to Joseph.
Joseph
Go ahead.
Joseph is probably my favorite JoJo, at least when he's the protagonist of his parts.
Don't think he's a good character, though.
Are you referring to part 4?
No, I'm referring to part 2.
Would you like to elaborate?
Again, he doesn't feel... So, let me preface this by saying this is from disjointed readings of part 2, like 2-3 years ago, so I'm not 100% sure of my memories on this. He felt one note. And he felt very goofy.
So being
don't-
goofy was the point. That was very much
He's better than Jonathan, but not by that much in terms of... Like, he's more interesting, I guess, but I still wouldn't say he's a strong character.
I feel like at least some of Joseph's goofiness is obfuscation. He very much strikes me as a trickster archetype. Compared to
so a decent
Jonathan's
amount of
more
it is
straightforward
obfuscation,
knight in shining
and a decent amount of his goofiness is just because the tone of the series at the time was like it. Remember, until about part 4, Araki was still experimenting with how he wanted the series to go.
Yeah.
So the tone of the series was very much.
I mean, I don't think it helped that it felt very clear that partway through part 2, Araki kind of just got tired of the whole Hamon thing,
Yes.
and just tired of part 2 in general and wanted to move on. Because part 2 feels like it ends really quickly.
So here's the thing about part 2. Part of it was definitely Araki getting tired of the Hamon. I think another part of it was that was still in a place where he wasn't really sure what he wanted JoJo's to be as a whole. And as a result, it kind of felt all over the place, mostly because he had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
But I think that doesn't have much to do with like Joseph as a character. Joseph as a character, absolutely yes, he is the trickster archetype, 100%. But also, we're leaving out the most important part of Joseph's character.
What?
He did want to bang his mom at one point.
I was going to mention that as well.
To be fair, he didn't know she was his mom at that point.
So it's the fucking Star Wars syndrome.
It's not just Star Wars! That's literally the plot of Oedipus.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, the reason-
Oedipus syndrome. Whatever.
Yes, no, the plot of Oedipus is that he didn't know. And that's why it happened.
Yep.
People,
Well-
people citing that have probably forgotten that detail.
Yeah.
True, but like, I'm pretty sure Freud forgot that detail too. But Freud forgot a lot of details, but you know, like that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. But, regardless, I feel like Joseph is definitely a step up from Jonathan.
I mean, yes, that's very clear.
As for Jotaro, he's difficult to really pin.
So, Jotaro is definitely less of a character.
I feel like Jotaro is much more internal than Joseph, at the very least. He's very stoic and he doesn't express himself outwardly. Most of his most, if not all, of his emoting is done internally, unless he's super pissed.
That's why Daisuke Ono can get away with using the one tone of voice for Josuke. For Jotaro.
You mean Jotaro?
Yes.
Yeah, no. Jotaro is very much a character who is not particularly expressive compared to his grandfather.
And like there's upsides and downsides to that. I would say that at the time, he was a kind of an interesting take on the stoic protagonist trope, because the stoic protagonist trope was in flavor at the time. However, he did have aspects to him that were less stoic. Like, he did have a lot of deadpan snark.
I think he also played off of the goofier members of the Stardust Crusaders fairly well.
Yes, he was very much the straight man.
Yes.
Though...
Like, I have zero doubt that Araki wrote, at the very least, Polnareff and his goofiness with Jotaro
let's be
in mind.
real. With the exception of Kakyoin, basically that entire crew is kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kakyoin is too busy being a MILF hunter to be goofy.
Arguably, being a MILF hunter makes him goofy.
Yes. Though it's not really played up too much in the actual canon of the story.
It's played up more than you'd think.
Oh, I know it actually happens in the canon. It's just like it's not as exaggerated as it is in the fanon, you know?
Absolutely, yes, but like it's Kakyoin is weird because he's kind of the everyman of the series, despite the fact that he's not really much of an everyman at all.
Yeah, no, he's not.
He's about as much of an everyman as a JoJo character can be.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right.
Yeah, so Jotaro is very much the straight man. I don't really know if he is the I would say that Part 3 is very much more of an ensemble cast, so I don't think it would be appropriate to call him the protagonist of the series, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's the thing. Certainly in Part 3, I'm not sure how much of Araki's focus went into character development and more went onto the story and the action.
And the fighting. Let's not forget the fighting.
I included that in the action.
Yeah. Part 3 is probably the most action-focused of the other parts up until Part 5.
I mean, if nothing else, just look at the villains other than, Dio, just to see that Araki's focus was not necessarily characters in Part 3.
Part 3 was very much a Monster of the Week series.
It was, to its detriment at times, but yes.
Yes, it did get a little... Like, Araki's tarot card phase was really the worst part of Part 3.
Yeah, once he gets to Egypt, things get a lot better.
There's still a lot of relying on the main cast being dumb to introduce new villains.
Fair.
I mean, come on, guys. You're on the lookout for something strange, and you don't seem to think that a plug socket in a rock is strange.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell Joseph was thinking there.
I mean, it did lead to one of the best gags in the series.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it did.
Also, I'll be right back. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Also, on the lookout for something strange. Child versions of your companions are strange, guys. Come on. For fuck's sake. Please think. Do we want to move on to Josuke?
Yeah. Honestly, I really like Josuke. Josuke is fun. He's interesting.
I'm staying out of the JoJo's character analysis because I'm not sure how much I absorbed, honestly, and I've only read these series once.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm not a massive fan of JoJo's.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like I just can't get into it. I've tried. I've read parts 1 through 4. There's just something about it that I just don't find that interesting. I do think it's that Araki tends not to focus on sort of characters and character development as much as he does, creating a good interesting story.
I can see that, though I do think that part 4 is the most character driven. Like, out of all the parts that have been animated, part 4 is easily the most character driven of the 5.
I can agree with that, mostly because the story wasn't as much of a focus. Yes, they had the focus of trying to find Kira for most of it, but in a lot of the chapters that wasn't really the focus.
Yeah, exactly. It was
But
mostly just around the day-to-day life of the people in the town.
but at the same time, I'm not sure sort of how much of that focus Josuke got. It's very much another ensemble cast.
It is, but Josuke does get some character development, and he is different from previous JoJo's. He has a bit of both Jotaro and Joseph in him, but he also has some unique character flaws, like being a bit impulsive and aggressive and being a little bit greedy here and there.
Who?
Josuke.
Josuke.
Yes, that. Yeah. So Josuke, something's occurred to me.
Hmm.
The protags of JoJo's are very much a case study of the most prevalent shonen protag trope of the time.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't disagree with that.
It's like,
Because I'm just trying to remember.
circa Jonathan, the style was very much to go
white
for...
meat babyface. White meat babyface.
Sorry, what now?
It's a wrestling term. White meat babyface basically means sort of goody two shoes, good guy. Sort of that almost superhero archetype, I would say.
Okay, yeah, so the absolute faciest of the faces.
Yes.
That's not inaccurate, though I will say it was also, at the time, it was more of, part of the fashion was for them to be less emotionally expressive. Except when making some sort of, hang on, my dog is being a menace. One moment. Biscuit, stop that! Don't...
Do whatever it is you're doing, Biscuit.
That was chaos.
I'm not allowed to eat my pillows. I need those for sleeping.
Eat the pillows. He can sleep on you.
But yeah, Joseph kind of was prevalent in the time when trickster heroes were kind of in fashion. Jotaro was prevalent when, the guys.
Yes. No, we're listening. We're listening to you talk.
Yeah, Jotaro was prevalent in the time when the more like anti-heroes were kind of in vogue to a certain extent.
I mean, he was very clearly inspired by Clint Eastwood characters.
As was the style at the time. And it's kind of just like that's kind of been Araki's MO. I think the only place where that really broke up, I mean, like, even Giorno is kind of a classic early 2000s or like early 90s Shonen Protag.
Oh, are we moving on to Giorno now?
Well, no, I'm just like saying, I think it wasn't until Jolene that he really started making them a bit different.
Mm.
I mean, we do have to talk about Giorno at some point.
Yeah.
Are you done talking about Josuke?
I personally am.
Josuke overall is a pretty good JoJo, but as Fuzzy mentioned, like the formula for JoJos didn't really get changed up too much until part 6. But yeah, part 5, fortunately, Giorno is also quite bland and also overshadowed by his supporting cast.
Okay, wow, I didn't realize this because I stopped watching part 5 before. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just reading the plot summary for Golden Wind. I didn't realize that Fugo just fucked off.
Yeah, no, he did.
Disappears.
He just fucks off at one point.
Wait for the story.
Because he's a bad character.
No, because Araki originally intended to write him as a traitor in the group, but he thought that would be too depressing, and because Fugo-san was so overpowered, he didn't know what else to do with him, so he just wrote him out of the story.
He just like kind of just.
As I said, I stopped watching JoJo's right before, or part 5 right before that, so I didn't realize.
So here's the thing about Fugo, right? Do you know what his stand is?
It's purple haze?
It's an incurable biological weapon.
Yeah.
It melts
and guess
people.
what? Giorno is the only person on Earth who can synthesize an antidote to it, and as a result, everyone in the crew, all of the gangstars, became immune to Fugo's biological weapon, which means that as an antagonist he would have been completely ineffective, and as a protagonist he would have broken the story. Because literally everyone loses to his stand.
Hang on, Polnareff ends up in the body of a turtle?
Yes. It's the whole thing.
Oh, Polnareff.
First he ended up in a wheelchair, then he ended up in the body of a turtle.
Yeah.
So, it's like... An argument can be made that it was an upgrade. I mean, to be fair, the turtle stand is like a really nice hotel room. But yeah, also, get this. You know how stands have like a Super Saiyan mode?
Yeah.
When they got shot by an arrow?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what Polnareff's stand was? Like Silver Chariot? It was just a dude with a rapier.
A fast dude with a rapier.
Yes, but like at the end of the day, it was a purely offensive. Like it was just his stand's entire power was running around poking things with a sword.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, his stand's evolved form was Freaky Friday body swapping.
Yeah.
Somehow. Never gets elaborated on how, because every other evolved form of a stand is just like the same but more. His body swapping. Yeah, part 5.
Anyway, I think Giorno faces the same problem that previous JoJo's faces, which is he is the main character in an ensemble cast, and struggles to get attention.
I mean, the problem is like he's basically the Frodo to Giorno's to Bruno's Aragorn.
Oh, I thought you were
And-
going to call Bruno Sam.
No, Mista
No,
is Sam.
Bruno is 100% Aragorn. He's the one driving the story.
Mista is Sam with a gun.
Yeah, Mista is Sam.
Mista is if Sam had a gun and kept shooting himself.
He does shoot himself quite a lot, yes.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair,
For somebody,
shoot himself.
for somebody
Stan
who,
shot himself.
I was gonna say, for somebody who has a stand based around being incredibly accurate with a gun, he shoots himself a lot.
I mean, it's not his
fight,
fault
yes.
that every single bad guy can redirect his stand somehow.
I mean,
At that
to be
point,
fair,
I'd stop using my stand and just start shooting normally.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, if his stand did exactly like, here's the thing, a lot of stands are like very powerful and require having an idiot as the stand master.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the story breaks.
It's why
It's
Speedwagon couldn't have a stand. He's too smart.
Speedwagon with a stand would have solved literally every problem in the JoJo's franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why
well,
Rocky had to kill him off before Part 3 even started.
He would have solved every problem except the problem of his own broken heart. Because Jonathan would never love him the way he wanted.
Do you think there's fan fiction of an OT3 with Speedwagon, Jonathan, and Dio?
I would not be surprised.
You don't even have to ask that question. Of course there is. Neil, you've been reading fan fiction for decades. And how would you think there isn't?
Not decades, maybe a decade.
You mean you didn't start reading fan fiction in the womb?
No.
Could've
Anyway.
fooled me.
Anyway, Giorno.
The most Italian of all the Joestars.
Like, again, you guys have to take the lead on Giorno. I've literally watched half of Part 5, and it was like 2 years ago, at least.
Well, no, we've described him perfectly. Giorno is Frodo.
He's Frodo without having any really notable qualities to him besides is the viewpoint character of the story.
He doesn't even have a One Ring.
Yep, he doesn't have that story arc of being slowly corrupted by an unimaginably powerful artifact created by a Dark Lord of Evil.
And then having to spend the rest of his life being insulted for not being strong enough.
Poor Frodo
the
and
fandom.
his PTSD.
Yeah.
He does have the major PTSD, though, doesn't he?
He really does.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we don't want to say any, if don't/can't say anything more about Giorno, are we gonna move on to the new Gen Shonen?
Yes.
I can say a few words about Jolene, Johnny, and Gappy.
Go for it. Just no spoilers, please.
So, Jolene's character is kind of very interesting in that she has one.
Nice.
And it's really it's around that point where the ensemble cast is much more fleshed out. The only thing bad about Jolene is that the editors forced Araki to make her straight.
That's unfortunate.
So once again, the greatest villain of the series is heteronormativity.
Yes, actually.
And or Shueisha editors, in this case.
So yeah, her original love interest was gender swapped to become a man, and also the character she has the most chemistry with, the Joe Bro she has the most chemistry with, was also put on a bus. In one of the most interesting ways, in a very non-standard way, but still put on a bus.
Well, we'll have to wait to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Johnny is, what if you took Jonathan and made him an interesting character?
And a
Or
sailor?
Ooh.
rather, made him a character.
And a sailor?
No, that's someone.
That's the next one. That's Gappy.
I just remember somebody in a sailor uniform.
Yes, that's Gappy. He's not a sailor, he just wears the sailor uniform. And so Gappy's thing, also Johnny's thing, is that his legs don't work.
Is the sailor outfit kink related?
That is a question I don't have an answer to. I will say that he does have 4 testicles.
Okay then.
I mean, that has to, shoot him to the upper tiers of Shonen Protagonists on its own, surely.
Yes, no, I'm pretty sure he's like the only known shonen protagonist with who is confirmed to have more than 3 testicles.
You more than 2.
I was gonna say, who has 3 testicles? Just silence.
Anyway.
Like.
Anyways, moving on to new gen shonen stuff.
What do we want to start with?
Let's start with the bane of our existence, Hiromashima.
Do
and
we
his
have to
work.
start there?
Let's just rip off the band-aid, Mel.
I have more interesting series I want to talk about than fucking Mashima's.
Like I said, ripping off the band-aid.
But the thing about Mashima's shonen protags is that really Mashima sets a bold standard for bad characters.
I would argue that Rave Master isn't as bad as some of his later stuff. It's just like
Early Rave Master is okay, and then it kind of just goes downhill from there.
I have not read or watched all of Rave Master, I will confess.
Yeah, so early Rave Master is okay. It's tolerable at least, and then kind of just it's all downhill from there.
Give your dog attention.
I'm giving my dog attention. She doesn't want my attention. She wants my parents' attention because they give her more food than she's supposed to have.
Ah.
She's literally had dinner seconds ago. And now wants...
You need better dog discipline.
Mm.
Again, I have great dog discipline. My parents have 0 dog discipline, and as a result, the dog knows where she likes to be more.
That's fair.
So, yeah,
Anyway, Mashima.
Natsu.
Natsu is the most generic shonen protagonist I've ever seen.
Imagine if you took Goku, right? And then you took away everything that made Goku Goku. Only kept the bare bones tropes. And that's Dragon Boy.
Natsu is literally friendship powered.
Literally every fight that Natsu is in has 2 conclusions. 1, he pulls a new power out his butt and then uses it. Or 2, he realizes friendship is important and then punches them once and they die.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's basically in a nutshell.
Okay, good talk about Mashima's. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, so if we're talking about the good new gen, I feel like we should probably go in ascending order of character, and let's state our orders first, because I feel like that's going to be an interesting conversation.
Okay, so what series are we including in this?
Okay,
So,
let's start with the 5 biggest ones that we can think of. Demon
Black
Slayer,
Clover.
Dr. Stone, Black Clover, My Hero Academia, and Jujutsu Kaisen. Oh no, let's add Promised Neverland in there too.
What was the other one? Other than Promised Neverland?
So, Promised Neverland, Dr. Stone, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, and
Existed. Which, not
That's a
a
shame,
great
dude.
look for the series.
I also would like to talk about, Ass Class and Haikyuu at some point.
We'll add Ass Class in there because I have seen Ass Class, yes.
Let's not get into the sports ones yet, because the sports ones are kind of their own can of worms.
Here's the thing,
Yeah,
Hinata is such a good shonen protagonist, I have to talk about him at some point.
We do have to, but we'll tackle the
let's
sports
pick
ones
the
later.
7 series that all of us have at least had some exposure to.
Okay.
Right. So I would say
Bottom to
probably
top.
for the worst protag in that group in terms of like writing and development is gonna be either Black Clover or Dr. Stone.
Oh.
I do agree with Black Clover, to be honest. I love Asta. He's not particularly well developed. He doesn't really change.
Asta is something of a himbo, yes.
No, if he was just no. Nami is a himbo. Asta is a generic shonen protag.
And it works in the context of the series, but that does not change the fact that he is generic.
He's very generic. I would say that Asta is kind of like if Natsu was written competently, but that's not like a very.
It's not the highest of bars, is it? No. I would also personally put Tanjiro down near the bottom.
I would agree with that.
Tanjiro
is
the Jonathan.
It's less.
Tanjiro, you know what? Let's be real. Demon Slayer is just JoJo's meets Bleach.
Because the issue with Demon Slayer is that it doesn't focus on character development.
No, it's very much about.
It's a very rushed series. It's a 200 chapter series that probably could have done with being 300 chapters.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So I would say the bottom 3. So how do you feel about Senku? Because Senku, great character.
Yeah, he's a great character. I think he does have depth to him because he clearly.
I mean, if you want depth from him, just watch his monologue at the end of the second season of the anime, where he's talking to Tsukasa.
Yeah, because
But at the same time,
he has depth, but he doesn't develop. He doesn't change. From chapter 1 to chapter 200. He never really changes himself.
And even the depth is like the thing is, I think the thing that Demon Slayer and Dr. Stone have in common is that it's not really a character study.
No,
very much.
Dr. Stone is very focused on science.
Yeah, it's
not even the science. Dr. Stone is kind of like attempting to discuss human nature. In a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of an attempt to showcase the good and bad sides of human nature from a variety of perspectives, whether it's from the Luddite perspective or from the more tech-focused perspective, or even the capitalism versus Marxist perspective with Ryusui. Right?
Yeah. Oh, no. I completely agree.
It's more about society and humanity as a whole than it is about any individual actor. Except in the most recent arc, but that's kind of like more of a.
I mean, I would
think that's.
Yes, I would say in terms of development, a character like Chrome gets more development than Senku does.
Most of the supporting cast gets more development than Senku does. Well, gets more character growth. They change more as characters.
Yes. I do think it's going to be interesting to see if there is a change in Chrome's character in this most recent arc.
Yes.
Why would there be?
So just give me a second, because I need to put this up. Spoiler warning for the most recent manga arc of Dr. Stone. Just give that a few seconds to bed in for anyone who doesn't want to hear this. So...
We really do need to... have a spoiler warning for a lot of this, huh?
I don't think we need to have it for most of it, but if we are going to be talking about, most recent manga arcs for some of this stuff, yeah, we probably do need spoiler warning. So basically they are, getting set to go to the moon, but it's been revealed that it's a suicide mission.
Yeah, it's a one-way trip, and everyone who's going on that is basically just going to petrify themselves to stay alive until they can mount another
It's not
moon
really
mission
a
and bring them
suicide
back.
mission, then, is it?
It's still a
It
one-way
is
trip, and
yeah.
they will be petrified
It's
indefinitely.
temporarily a one-way trip. I mean, like...
I mean,
Again,
what I'm going to find interesting is because obviously in the first season, there was the trip to the what was it, Sulphur Lake, something like that. That Chrome refused to basically stay behind for, if I remember correctly. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think you might be misremembering something. I think it might have been the opposite.
I don't remember. It's been a while.
Chrome's never shown a fear of death, as far as I'm aware.
No, I don't think he has.
It wasn't the fear of death. It was that, like, I think it was something like Senku was forcing him to stay behind so that if something went wrong, a scientist would survive.
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, no. Okay, I misread. No. Senku forced him to leave. Or rather, forced him to not go at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point. He forced him to stay at the camp while he went.
Okay, yes, no,
yeah,
I thought you meant that he refused to stay behind at the Sulphur Lake. No.
Yeah. So it's gonna be, and obviously he refused to do that, and he went anyway.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting because this is a very similar situation in which, Senku is clearly going to volunteer himself for this incredibly dangerous mission. Is Chrome going to do the same thing?
I think Chrome is probably actually going to make a different decision this time around.
And that's the point. That's the point. That's growth.
But the other thing I was going to say is that with Senku specifically, it feels like a lot of his character growth and development has happened off screen, like before the story even started. A lot of his monologues almost suggest that he's kind of been there, done that.
I mean, it would be very interesting to see him as a kid to see if he, ever had a phase of
being Zeno.
Being Zeno, disliking somebody like Taiju, because, it's clear that sort of Taiju is the anchor for Senku's heart, almost. Like, he is the...
Absolutely, Taiju is the morality. Well, I mean, to be fair, Zeno also had a morality pet. It's just his morality pet also have no morality, so it's kind of just like...
Slight issue there.
Well, funny thing about Zeno and
Senku's morality pet is a lovable himbo. Zeno's morality pet is a morally dubious soldier. There is a very big goal.
You know what's funny? No. Here's how I see it. Senku's very clearly his morality pet is Taiju, whereas Taiju is the brains. Whereas Zeno and Stanley each seem to think that the other one is the morality pet in the situation. Zeno seems to rely on Stanley for a lot of his moral conflicts, and Stanley seems to rely on Zeno for a lot of his moral conflicts, so they kind of just, feed into each other in a not-so-pleasant way.
Yeah, Senku, he's an enjoyable character, he's just not that, deep of a character.
So yeah,
hasn't experienced that much growth, so yes.
The bottom three would be Dr. Stone, Black Clover, and Demon Slayer, then.
Yes.
I can agree with that. But going up the chain a little bit.
So fourth
place.
So here's the thing. I am recusing myself from discussing My Hero and Izuku.
I would actually put Izuku at number 1 or 2.
I would.
I'm recusing myself simply because I've read too much fan fiction and it is hard for my brain to separate what is canon and what is fanon.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's
I
fair.
would honestly say Deku is more third or fourth.
Mm, like,
I
if
say
we were
that
to rank
because,
the
like,
remaining 4 protagonists, I'd
okay,
probably put
so I would
I'd,
say,
I'd probably put
okay, you know what?
Nagisa in
No, I'd
fourth.
put Emma down on fourth.
I'd put Nagisa in fourth, Emma third. Um,
No, I say Nagisa's first or second.
eh, I
I
like Nagisa a
agree, but
lot.
I'm also incredibly biased. Look at
Yeah,
No, no, it's
you're
look at
fine.
my picture.
Your bias is on my side in this case, so I'll allow it.
wow.
This is how politics works, Jack. Uh,
Politics fucking sucks.
So out of the three that I am actually, willing to talk about, I do find it very hard to separate them because I do think they are all strong in their own
They're all
way.
pretty good characters, yeah.
so that would be. So here's my thing about Deku and Emma. Both of them are a little bit flat sometimes. Deku less so. Emma is kind of like uniformly the Genki girl, absolute rave. Yeah, Emma is kind of a Jonathan.
I don't agree with that. Emma is canonically extremely smart and tenacious.
Yeah, but that doesn't preclude her from being a Jonathan. Being a
So
Jonathan doesn't mean she's dumb. Being a Jonathan more means that she's like
I would argue that in
a
the
little boring.
Escape from
One moment, please.
Gracefield arc, Emma definitely shows some growth because at the start of the arc she is very much happy to just place herself in the trio as basically the muscle,
I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
and leave the plans
Okay.
to Ray and Norman. But as that arc develops, she does realize that she needs to use her brain more and start thinking more strategically, which is growth. After escaping Gracefield, I'm not sure if she grows as much. I'm
I'd
just
say
trying
she
to
still
think.
grows, especially during Goldie Pond.
Elaborate, just because while I
Goldie
try
Pond
and
is
think.
like, of the 3 main sagas, I think Goldie Pond is the one most focused on Emma and her growth.
Hmm.
Kind of growing into her own in the absence of Norman and without Ray there to support her, and learning to kind of work in her own environment with new people she doesn't really know all that well, and whom she needs to learn to both rely on and work with
Hmm.
in order to survive and make it through this desperate, terrible situation that she's in.
It also arguably shows off, I would say, her biggest flaw, and it's one that she doesn't sort of improve on by the end of the series, which is her self-sacrificing nature.
Well, that doesn't necessarily need to be improved on to make a good story.
But we're talking
Like,
about characters, and we're talking about character growth.
yeah, but she grows in other ways as a character. Like, removing all of the character's flaws through the character growth doesn't always make for a good story. It doesn't always make for a good character arc.
I just want to
Having
point
a
out. I just want to point out that I'm being devil's advocate while Fuzzy is not here. I love Emma.
I adore Emma. Like, honestly,
Emma
I
is
do
one
think
of my favorite protagonists.
she's one of the best protagonists in recent shonen, honestly. But yeah, I would honestly say that Emma is third highest for me. And the only reason I put Nagisa in fourth is because I like the other 3 a bit more.
Well, it's not really about whether or not we like them, is it? It's more about
I
like
also think they have more interesting character arcs.
So the unfortunate thing is, I'm willing to bet that Izuku's is very much based around the last couple of arcs, isn't it?
yes.
Oh,
He has got
yeah.
more development and growth in the last
Yeah,
the rest of the series combined.
I kind of had that feeling, which is unfortunate for me.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly
no
put
one
Deku
asked you to
number
be a
one
filthy
with
volume
this.
reader.
I like Deku's character development the past couple of arcs has kind of shot up my estimation quite a bit.
Yes.
Tell you what,
would
do you want to talk about Izuku now? I'll
Yeah.
turn off my. Well, I'll take my headphones off, and then you send a message
Spoiler
to the
warning,
chat.
please.
You send.
No,
I've kept the spoiler warning up this entire time, but
Yeah, okay.
I do not.
Have you covered Emma completely?
Yes.
I would argue yes. I do
Really
think
good.
that there are elements to her that could have been better, and it's not helped by the fact that it felt like the latter part of the story rushed to the finish.
Also,
Yeah.
she did kind of like. I understand why Emma makes the decision she does, but she is a bit selfish in that she refuses to trust the others enough to let them in on her plan at the end.
I did mention that she doesn't really improve on her self-sacrificial nature.
Yeah. And it's
Well,
sort of.
that is a good transition point to talk about Deku.
yeah.
And
One second. So, yes, I will not be participating. Please send a message in the chat when you move on to Yuji or Nagisa, please.
will do.
So, here's the thing. Deku had a breakdown. Because it was basically just he took way too much on his plate and ended up
He
nearly
drove
working
himself into the
to
ground.
death. Yes.
He drove himself into.
Now, the thing about that is that it's a very important turning point for him as a character.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's really the logical conclusion of what he's been doing for the entire series.
Yeah, no, it is a very logical progression of his character arc.
The problem is that the story is kind of in a post-apocalyptic phase, and the problem I have with his character arc the way it is now is that he's not necessarily wrong about what he's saying in many respects. He's wrong in a lot of respects in that, like, he's wrong in trying to take it all on himself, yes. He's not necessarily wrong in saying that most other people are not strong enough to handle it.
That's not really the point of the scenario, though. The point of the scenario is that he is not acknowledging his own limits as a person, and he needs to be able to do that and to take a moment to say, I can't keep doing this forever. I need to take time to rest and recuperate. Otherwise, I will die, and the bad guys will win. That is the point of the conflict.
Yes.
There, and his friends are basically
like,
telling him, like, Deku, you are fucking yourself up something fierce. You need to rest.
Well, I think no. I mean, is that his counter argument to them is that if he doesn't work himself to the bone, then a lot of other people are gonna die, and that's not wrong. It's unfair to him, but it is true that.
I mean, the alternative to that is him working himself to death, and then other people die anyways because he failed, because he was too tired and too weak.
Yes, but I'm like looking at it from his perspective. I can definitely understand where he was coming from.
He's not wrong, entirely wrong, but he is coming from a flawed perspective that isn't really taking into account the details, because he is both exhausted and afraid at this point.
And also kind of just like he's lost himself to the hero complex.
He has a bit of a martyr complex at this point, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think Deku's like character growth and development is just like been extremely good these past few arcs.
But until these past few arcs, he was kind of just the same person.
I don't entirely agree. I just think his character growth was more understated and gradual up until this point.
I can agree with that, yeah. So I think that we've about covered it. Should we let Mel back in?
Yeah, let's let Mill back in. I'll ping him. Yeah, I can't wait to see this content get animated because this is some good shit.
Huh, that was shorter time than I expected.
We're
There's
mostly
a lot
talking
to say
about
because, like, go ahead.
we were mostly just talking about the most recent arc and Deku's growth in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
so Nagisa.
I like Nagisa quite a bit, honestly. I do think he has a very interesting character arc, but at the same time, like, he does tend to get overshadowed by both Koro Sensei and the rest of the class quite a bit.
Yes and no.
I
because-
disagree.
Especially Karma.
I disagree
Karma,
because
especially.
I know he gets overshadowed in terms of like the fandom, but the story always accepts that it is his story and it is his
Nagisa's
growth.
story.
Because
That I can agree with.
because it is very much Assassination Classroom at its heart is very much the story of Class 3E as a whole, yes, but especially Nagisa realizing that he has worth.
And also that he's gonna bang green-haired girl.
That as well.
Wow.
To be fair,
You're not wrong, but wow.
it's one of the few shonen series, even including the new gen, that actually works that into the plot in a competent way.
I've just realized something in all that we've talked about as class. You mention it for other series, but you don't mention that Nagisa has a harem.
Does?
Multiple people in 3E, like, at the very least have a crush on him, if not, certainly like him romantically.
I'm pretty sure it's only two that are in any way prominent.
Green-haired girl. Who else?
So, to an extent, Karma.
Please, the homoerotic subtext.
I know, but I have to say to an extent because it's not. It's very much subtextual. Kayano, Nakamura says so in the Valentine's Day chapter.
Who's Nakamura? I'm gonna be honest.
Nakamura is the blondie who likes to tease Nagisa with Karma.
More specific than that.
I'm not sure how much
What's
more
her gimmick?
that she teases Nagisa. She's also like first placed in English.
Huh.
But like she is
about that one.
Like she is the she's the trickster alongside Karma. She's the trickster on the female side of the class. And in the Valentine's Day chapter, she mentions that she might have gone for Nagisa if it hadn't been for Kaino being so earnest, I think, or something like that. And it is
pretty sure Kaino would have shared.
And it is stated in one of the fan books that after Nagisa defeated Takaoka, Kanzaki also had a crush on him.
All right.
Hmm.
No, I did not know this, but now that I know this, I'm gonna have to reevaluate Ass Class.
But yeah, it's very much the story of, Nagisa gaining self-worth and also realizing that to an extent he doesn't have to tie his worth to his talents either.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look at the end of the series. He's clearly one of the most talented assassins in the world, but he decides to
be a teacher
instead.
Yeah. But no, that's the thing. He tied his worth to being a good assassin. And then, there's the realization that, no, he's not just a good assassin, he's a good person, he has worth, and he can use his talents to do other things, including being a teacher.
Also an expecting father, apparently.
Very possibly, yes. Very possibly.
It was all but stated.
Yeah.
And literally, there was glowing light on her abdominal region in that area.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking blatant.
It's barely even subtext.
Anyway, I think Nagase is a fantastic shonen protagonist. I also think
I don't disagree.
I also
Near
think
the top?
I also think Yuji is a fantastic shonen protagonist.
Yes,
Yuji
let's
is
talk
great.
about Yuji.
So
Yuji is probably the biggest himbo of this group of new gens.
Yuji is another one of those that starts out as sort of your stereotypical shonen protagonist and then grows magnificently.
Yes.
Yuji is a reconstruction. He's an excellent representation. A lot of the characters in Jujutsu Kaisen are reconstructions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Gojo is the reconstruction of the almighty, like, mentor figure. Yuji is the reconstruction of the dumbass shonen protag. Megumi is the reconstruction of the emo rival character, because he's not really a rival or emo at all.
And
Kind of like I love Megumi so much. He is a precious cinnamon roll.
Megumi is great. He's a precious cinnamon roll with abs of steel.
Yes. I mean,
I didn't really notice that, but sure.
I'm pretty sure
you're pretty
Yuji
much
also
the.
has abs of steel.
Oh, I mean, 100%. But you are pretty much the only one who didn't notice Megumi's abs of steel.
Which is funny because I usually notice these things.
Nobara is a reconstruction of the tough girl.
I mean, Nobara is a reconstruction of female characters in shonen by virtue of having a character.
And Panda is a reconstruction of pandas.
I don't know. Panda's pretty tropey as far as pandas go.
But he's not a panda, is the thing.
Panda Janai.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so Yuji starts out as the stereotypical shonen protagonist who wants to save everyone, wants to give everyone a good death.
And then a lot of people.
And then his idealism gets baseball bats taken to it.
And not just regular baseball bats. We're talking the Walking Dead spiked baseball bat.
Yeah. Because, he slowly realizes that A, he can't save everyone. B, he can't even ensure that they have a good death. And C, that, frankly, he's not special. He's just another cog.
Yep. Not to mention he has, like, an actually genuinely evil entity stuck inside him. And whether he likes it or not, there is a very strong possibility that if and when that entity goes down, he will die with it.
Not only that, he thinks he can, like, beat the evil entity with the power of friendship. No, he just gets his, like, head chopped off.
Yeah, he just gets his head cut in two. I mean, it's a great scene, because you are expecting Yuji to actually put up a fight, and it ends in a panel.
Yeah, Sukuna is way too overpowered.
And at that point, that's what?
That's
three finger Sukuna?
Yeah.
And the thing about Sukuna, right, is not only that he's overpowered, it's also that he's, like, not some sort of misunderstood tragic figure.
No, he's not Kurama.
He's
He's not fucking Kurama. He's not
he's an asshole. Like, that's the end-all be-all of it. He is genuinely, gleefully evil.
Yeah.
He's not even, like, likably evil.
I mean, the only reason he doesn't go on rampages more often is that he's too interested in Megami.
Yeah, no, he's the classic, like, ooh, this guy looks like he can do some interesting stuff. Let's watch him grow and then maybe fight him later.
I don't know if it's even that. I think it's more that, like, he wants to bang Megami, kind of.
Senpai has noticed you, Megami? Sorry, I've got that in my head after watching the TFS Beastars in X minutes. which is hilarious because
It's amazing.
because they don't even make the make the show that much more sexual. They just put the Legoshi and Louis stuff from subtext to text.
Speaking of, I'm pretty sure Legoshi is a shonen protagonist.
Pretty sure, yeah.
I would say Beastars is in the same magazine as Baki, so you know, Shonen is a bit of a stretch.
Let me check.
Let me check. Yeah.
It's in Weekly Shonen Champions.
It's a shonen manga.
Yeah.
Which is fucking weird.
I mean, I think
magazine is Golden Kamuy, isn't it?
No. Golden
no.
Kamuy is seinen.
Here's the thing, I'm fairly sure fucking Attack on Titan is like considered shonen as well as the thing.
It is.
Oh,
it
let's
is
talk
published
about
in a
that
shonen
then.
magazine.
So I do think we need to sort of say that, you know, while there are some shonen magazines, there are some series that are classified as shonen, they're so clearly not shonen. And
Yeah.
Beastars, I would argue, is one of them. Like, it's closer to a seinen than it is an actual shonen.
That is fair.
As much as I would love to talk about Legacy, and we will talk about Beastars at some point, I guarantee it. I'm even going to put it on the schedule now, because I want to talk about Beastars at some point.
I still need to read the entirety. I didn't finish it.
I think we'll stick to the anime.
So I will add that now, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily class Legacy as a shonen protagonist.
We did mention Attack on Titan, though, and that means we can talk about everyone's protagonist.
Again, I would argue Attack on Titan is seinen.
So, here's the thing. Getting back to Jujutsu Kaisen for a bit. The thing about Yuji that's interesting to me is that even after he's crushed emotionally and spiritually, he kind of manages to bounce back.
He does.
Not by itself. Here's the thing. Most shonen protags either break down when pointed towards their own inherent contradictions, or they refuse to acknowledge them. And I think that's the thing that really separates Yuji out from the rest, is that he's forced to face reality multiple times, but reality doesn't break him.
No.
Permanent. That's something that he kind of has over most. Because most other protags, either they're never forced to face reality or they refuse to face reality. Yuji is in neither of those two categories. I would say even Nagisa is kind of in that category. In that, no matter how much they wanted to, they weren't able to save Kuro-sensei. That didn't break them.
Exactly.
Like, the fact that the power of friendship and, like, everything, ultimately there's still things they can't fix. None of them let it stop them from trying.
And I do just want to make mention of the fact that Jujutsu Kaisen is not over.
It's still a developing series, yeah.
And Juji is still a developing character because, again, spoiler warning for the most recent arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. I think it's going to be really interesting seeing what Yuji's philosophy on saving people is post Shibuya, and seeing what form it takes when he inevitably comes across Higuruma.
Ooh, that's
Which one is
fun.
Higuruma?
Higuruma is the defense attorney from the most recent chapter who awakened his sorcery after his client initially was found not guilty, and then at the second trial was found guilty.
Because of the
After
lazy
no
process.
real evidence, just because of the fact that Japan's prosecution rate is fucking stupidly high.
Yeah, Japan's justice system is fucked.
But Higuruma is very much a character who is, he wants to save people and he wants to save anybody he can. And so that's why I think it's going to be very interesting seeing what sort of how that interacts with A, Megumi's philosophy on saving people, and B, Yuji post Shibuya. Because Shibuya, if the fucking Curse Womb, Junpei, and Origin of Obedience fucking arcs, like, fucking kicked Yuji's idealism in the head a bunch of times, fucking Shibuya, like, gunned it down.
Multiple times, too. I think it double tapped. Or triple tapped.
Shibuya was absolutely a spike baseball back to the testicles.
It really was.
Of Yuji's ideals.
And so it's going to be really interesting, seeing these two characters that ostensibly have similar, or certainly had similar, perspectives at one point, how they interact and what Yuji's philosophy is now, basically. But
also, Maki did a nice little genocide, which was very cathartic.
Yes, very cathartic. Even if the fact that she didn't manage to get the latest volume cover sent the fandom into uproar.
Oh, who got the latest volume cover?
Naoya.
The fuck?
In fairness, it was just as much his arc as it was Maki's.
I just want confirmation that he's dead.
He's dead. He's dead. He's not coming back.
He is fucking dead.
His mom stabbed him a bunch, but like...
If he's not, fucking Maki is going to tear him to shreds again. And that's just going to be even better.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is 100% canonically dead.
Yeah. Anyway, I now want to talk about Hinata.
Alright, go ahead and talk about your sports boy.
Because the way that he grows is so fantastic. Because he starts off basically believing that he can get by with just his athleticism. He can get by with just his speed and his ability to jump, regardless of the fact that he's short. And throughout the series, he comes to realize that's not the case. He has to... Not only does he have to work hard, he has to work smart. And that's the big difference. He was already working hard, but everybody else is working hard. Like, that's...
Like, that's what separates him from Asta, who solved the problem of working hard, smart, not hard, by just working harder.
Yeah.
Because that works, apparently.
No, Hinata works smarter as the series goes on. Going up to, after the first tournament loss against Aoba Josai, he realizes he needs to be able to fight the mid-air battles, so he starts opening his eyes on the quicks, which, again, he's working smarter because he gets to actually change his hitting lines. In the run-up to the national arc, he realizes he has to be able to do more than just attack. He has to be good on defense, which means because he's already short enough, he's not going to be able to compete really the way, the taller players are over the net. So he has to work on his ground defense, which he does. He works smarter. He actually starts honing his intuition. And once you get to the time skip, you realize just the fact that, yes, he has worked harder. He has worked as hard as anyone out there, but he's added that cleverness to his game. And that's what makes him such a good player and such a good protagonist. He's still Hinata, but he is just that much cleverer about it, which I just love about him. He doesn't just keep doing the same things and assuming that they'll work. He realizes he has to change things. He has to change how he plays. He has to change how he thinks. So yeah, I definitely put Hinata up there in terms of shonen protagonists. In terms of other big series, do we want to talk about Soma?
Oh god.
Let's not.
Okay.
Let's not say we did.
Do we want to talk about Meliodas?
Meliodas is a second story.
Let's not even say we did.
Okay. I'm trying to think of other shonen protagonists. Yugi doesn't really develop.
He's not really the protagonist of his own series, is the thing.
I mean, even talking about Artem doesn't really develop.
Yeah.
Artem learns something about the power of friendship.
I guess, but he kind of had that from the beginning. I mean, yes. What else on terms?
I feel bad for Kaiba because his boyfriend had to go back to the land of the dead, and he was stuck with. He got stuck with his fake boyfriend instead.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Yugi can never do the things to Kaiba that he needs to really feel alive.
Yeah.
Yugi's just not the same as that Autumn.
Okay, here's an interesting one. Koichi from Vigilantes.
Haven't read Vigilantes.
You really should. You really should.
Maybe I will.
It's only 109
chapters. It becomes relevant in the main series.
Yeah. Because Koichi is another interesting one, I would say.
The Cruller.
Oh, Cruller. I love the fact that he got round fucking Tsukauchi's fucking lie detector power by the fact that he doesn't see himself as the Cruller. He's outright asked, "Are you the Cruller?" He says no, it doesn't ping because he doesn't think he's the Cruller. He thinks he's the Crawler. It's so great. I would say in terms of actual character, he doesn't experience much character growth, more sort of power growth than character growth.
No, even that, he kind of learns a lot about, he kind of grows from someone who wants to be a vigilante for the sake of it because he feels like he missed out, into someone who is genuinely heroic.
I would say that, but he also, I would say he realizes that I would say he realizes he doesn't need to be a hero to be a hero, if you get my meaning. He doesn't need to be out there punching bad guys to be a hero.
Oh, it does help.
It does help.
Guys.
Yes?
We missed one.
Oh?
Edward Elric.
Oh, go ahead. I can't, I'm sorry. Full Metal Alchemist is unfortunately stained in my mind at this point. It's hard to...
Why?
You know why.
Did you watch the anime first?
No, it's not that I watched the anime
Mignona.
first. It's the sex pest. I can't disentangle it in my mind yet.
Because of Vic Mignona.
Yeah.
The guy who voices Ed in the dub.
Well, I mean... Yeah, just watch it subbed. The thing.
As I said, I can't disentangle them yet. Maybe it'll happen one day. It's not happened yet.
I mean, maybe watching the sub would help with that.
Maybe, yeah.
As long as
because
Edward's voice stops being...
I know he's voiced by Romy Park, yes.
Yeah, no, Ed is just a really fantastic protagonist, I think. Partially because he's not really
short, though.
Well, he's not conventional. Part of the reason is he is very explicitly intelligent, and
no, here's the thing. No. I will say this: Edward Elric being intelligent does not prevent him from being a dumbass shonen protag.
Fair.
Very much agreed.
Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
But he also has a degree of his morality also doesn't really line up 100% with shonen protagonists because of his general apathy to some things.
He's also he's much more cynical than the standard shonen protag.
Yeah.
But without being an edgelord.
Yeah. He's also just sometimes a funny diminutive asshole.
in more ways than one.
Yes.
Also, we should say that the thing about Full Metal Alchemist is it's not just an ensemble. It is an ensemble cast, but there are genuinely multiple protagonists with their own, at least two. Because Mustang is just as much the protagonist of Full Metal Alchemist as
I was gonna say, are you gonna say
Edward
Mustang or are you gonna say Scar?
Scar is a deuteragonist at best.
Poor Alphonse gets no
say...
love.
Yeah, Alphonse is the deuteragonist of the overall story. Like, he's second only really to Ed in terms of prominence. And maybe Mustang if you want to stretch. But, like, this is just as much Alphonse's story as it is Ed's.
But Alphonse is kind of the eternal sidekick, except very late in the series.
I can kind of see that. But
like
I think
until like the
is...
very final arc, basically the eternal sidekick. But no, I will say Mustang is just as much a protagonist as Edward is, and the thing about Mustang that's interesting is that he's something very uncommon, and this is actually something I need to think about, because can you think of a single like traditional shonen protagonist other than Goku and the JoJo's for adults?
No. At least not when the story starts.
No. I mean, Goku was an adult for more of the series than he was a child.
Like, the only other example I can think of a shonen protagonist who spends a good chunk of the story as an actual adult is Light Yagami. And he is kind of a borderline
let's be
case.
real, Death Note is a seinen wearing a shonen as a skin.
Yeah.
So,
it's a seinen wearing a shonen skin suit.
Luffy technically is 19 after the time skip.
Luffy doesn't count because he is a child, regardless of how old he is.
Luffy is still very childish.
Saitama.
I would argue that's more seinen than shonen.
Yeah.
Oof.
And
I can't find one.
I just
have
realized
to be able to find one.
They don't really exist, do they?
Not
you
especially.
got did for still talking about Gon.
Did you have to
it's
bring
not.
it up? I was kind of hoping that we
not
didn't
to say
bring
we
this
did.
back up.
Alright, that's
This
fine.
is not the time.
I am waiting for the days when someone... We will not talk about Hunter x Hunter until the day someone who is more articulate than me comes up on the show. Because I know there's people who share my opinions, but I'm just very inarticulate about expressing my Hunter x Hunter opinions because I'm too blinded by hatred to be rational and properly be able to speak.
Speaking of things that blind fuzzy with hatred, let's talk about harem protagonists in shonen manga.
I mean, I was gonna say, do we want to talk about Shinra from Fire Force?
Oh, Shinra.
Oh god, Shinra.
I mean, Shinra is a weird.
Shinra is similar to Asta in that he's better written Natsu, which is not a high bar. I would say Shinra is a worse protagonist. Can we agree that Shinra is probably a worse protagonist than Asta?
Yes.
Probably.
I mean, I do want to say we should still celebrate getting over the bar of Natsu, but not too much.
Yes.
The problem with Shinra is that also, are you all aware that Shinra is literally Jesus?
No.
Yeah.
Not even metaphorically. He is literally the Messiah.
Yeah.
And his mother.
The current arc of the manga is fucking weird.
Shinra was born from a virgin birth.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm pretty sure there was mentioned in the second half of the most recent season. If it wasn't, it's manga.
Cool.
Yeah,
Haven't watched that bit of the season yet.
I don't
Yeah.
remember if it was mentioned or not in the anime.
Also, apparently, okay,
Big old
this
spoilers,
is
spoilers for Fire Force, by the way.
yeah, we are in spoiler warning territory though.
I've
Apparently,
just kept the spoiler warning up, frankly.
Smart.
Mill, do you mind, or should we? Do you want to leave? It's
Um,
nothing too major, but at the same time, it's kind of major.
I'll give it a couple of minutes then, yeah.
Okay. Oh, no, actually, no. You know what? It's fine. We just won't talk about that. I'll just say Shinra is literally Jesus Christ. Or, like the Messiah. And leave it at that. So, I mean, certainly a brave direction.
Uh-huh.
The Soul Eater is showing.
Oh yeah, we should talk about. We didn't
Let's
talk about
not
Maka
say-
at all.
Ugh.
Well, the thing is, like, Maka is one of the rare shonen protagonists who is a female character. Most shonen protagonists are men.
Yeah,
Or boys.
I just wish she had a better offer.
Yeah, that's
Maka is very much a character who is great in concept, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired on the author's part.
that's fair. 100% fair.
Like, she's almost like an insult to the idea of having a female character as the main protag of a shonen series, in that she's great. It's just, she's like, the idea of that is great, but the author just cannot do her justice whatsoever.
I mean, there is another example of a good female protagonist in a shonen series besides, Emma, and that's Claire from Claymore, I think.
Claymore, again, it suffers from the writing.
I don't think it's nearly as bad as Soul Eater in that regard.
It's not, but that's not a high bar.
I don't
I think you're
remember
being a
enough
bit
about
harsh on
Claymore to
Soul Eater.
really state one way or the other, honestly.
It's kind of... Also, Claymore is also just seinen disguised as shonen.
It is
That's
another
fair.
one of those series, honestly, yeah.
That is fair.
Claymore is basically Berserk Light. And considering what Berserk is, Berserk Light is still heavier than basically every other series.
Speaking of which, I actually just recently started Berserk.
I mean... It's never going to be finished, so, like, it's not even kind of worth it at this point.
Fuzzy, let me read what I want to read.
I mean, you're welcome to, just, like, don't be mad when you have no closure after reading it for a decade.
Meh.
Anyway, I
will
also...
not take me a decade to read it.
I just remembered that I do also want to talk about Osamu from World Trigger.
Is he the dying boy or the glasses boy?
Glasses boy.
Are we not talking about the dying boy?
No,
Why not? He's just technically a protag.
he's technically the protag, but I'd argue it's
He's
just as
not
much
the
Osamu.
protag. It's very much a trio. Well, it's ostensibly a trio, but let's be real. The girl of the trio kind of just does not have much development.
Certainly, I think she's starting to get more development. She's definitely going to get a lot more once they actually go on the away mission.
Wait, they're still not on the away mission?
They're training for it at the moment. They're on the test.
I stopped reading when they started the training for the away mission, and that was like.
Remember, the manga
6 or
not
7
only
years
went
ago.
on manga went on hiatus, and I think it's monthly now.
It is.
Went on hiatus for like how long?
2 years.
5 years?
2 years.
It felt like 5.
Regardless, I do think like
Well,
there are some manga that
I-
do fall into
yeah,
kind of a middle ground between shonen and seinen, and World Trigger and kind of fits that vibe, I think.
I don't know. World Trigger.
No,
is kind of weird.
World Trigger is
It's
definitely
very much
shonen.
shonen.
Oh,
It's very much shonen, but it kind of. I don't know. World Trigger has kind of a very unique flavor
Mm.
that I've never really been able to get used to.
I mean,
Okay.
what the reason I wanted to talk about Osamu, I mean, as I said, Chica's development has started, and yeah, I think it'll pick up more once they're on the away mission. Yuma's development sort of happened before the series, I would argue.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the awkward things about him as a character, isn't it?
But Osamu is another one of those characters that, like Hinata, realizes he can't just work hard, he has to work smart. Everyone else
Yeah,
is working hard. He has to work smart to try and get ahead of them.
It kind of like it's because most of the people, other characters are some sort of like they're absolutely protag level, right?
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
just
they're prodigies, and they're just so much stronger than him. What Osamu has to do is own his weakness. He has to realize that he's never gonna be, the ace of the team. He's never gonna be able to compete with Yuma as ace of the team. What he has to do is support. It doesn't matter if he gets kills or not. He has to set up the perfect conditions so that Yuma and now Hyusei can get the points. I think it's a really nice arc for him to go on, because it's not sort of overstated just because of the amount of fucking characters there are in World Trigger. It's hard for him to get a focus. But I do think Osamu was a good shonen protagonist, and especially a good one in comparison to, or in contrast to, other characters, in that he is so different and therefore has a different journey to take.
also Osamu was Ida before he was cool.
Hmm.
Does no one else see the fact that he's like very Ida-like?
I haven't read
Yeah.
World Trigger, so
Again, you should watch World
Maybe I
Trigger
will.
as well. Second
But
season
I-
looks amazing.
I did mention earlier that there are some series that kind of split the difference between shonen and seinen, and a couple recent manga I think are worth mentioning. Spy X Family and Kaiju Number 8,
Mm.
because they have very unconventional protagonists.
I've not read Kaiju number 8, and I've dropped Spy X Family.
Heresy.
Can't get past the fluff.
No, actually, I can't get past the forced love triangle.
Not unfair. That hasn't
Like,
been a thing in the most. That hasn't really been
It
a
really
thing.
hasn't been a thing.
That hasn't been a thing.
It
in
was
the most
literally-
recent
like
arc.
the fact that was even introduced, just like I dropped the chapter that the unrequited love spy lady was introduced.
I think that's a bit excessive.
Once again,
But we're not really
you drop your guillotine far earlier than the rest of us. But Kaiju number 8, I think you'd probably like a bit.
Until I am 1,000,000% certain that Kaiju number 8 is not being axed, I will not read it.
I
It's
don't
not
think
going
it's
to be
being
axed on
axed.
Jump Plus, but it's bi-weekly.
Are you sure? Because
Yeah.
it felt.
Kaiju Number 8 is very successful too.
It's
the second
actually
most
selling
successful
really
title
well.
from Jump Plus.
It's selling really
Like,
well.
after Spy X Family.
It's selling really well. Of course, that doesn't mean much.
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say selling well is not.
Hint,
not
hint,
mean.
jump. High School Family is selling worse than Build King. Phantom Seer sold 4 times the amount of copies High School Family did in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that either, but anyways, I brought both the I brought Spy X Family and Kaiju Number 8 up because of their because they are relevant to this discussion, because they do not have conventional protagonists to a shonen series in any real way. Like, the arguable protagonist of Spike's family is either Lloyd, who is a spy in his late 20s, early 30s. His age is kind of vague, but he's like a cynical spy. And the other probable protagonist is
the
Anya,
4-year-old.
who is like a 5 or 6 year old girl.
Yeah.
Who can read minds.
A hilariously adorable one.
She's amazing. I love her.
She has the best face. I miss Spy X Family. I just like
Give it
Fuzzy,
another
it is
chance,
your
Fuzzy.
It is your own fault you dropped it.
Just skip the fucking tennis arc. It really doesn't matter that much. Like,
Yeah, and the current
Sorry,
arc
there
is
was a-
focused on Yor.
Oh right, the tennis arc.
that's the
Her
arc
arc
that
is
you
focused
dropped
on you.
it.
Yor gets spotlight, so you should definitely check that out.
I will find you the chapter to start at.
Yes. But anyways, like, Spike Family does not have anything resembling a conventional shonen protagonist. I think the series is better for it because, like, both Lloyd and Anya are just fantastic characters, and they bounce off both each other and Yor very well. And it makes for a very fun and entertaining series. Meanwhile, Kaiju number 8 has a protagonist in his mid-30s who is a washed-up, who is basically a wash-up who failed at achieving his dream, only to get a second chance because of a freak incident involving him becoming a kaiju. It's a really fucking wild series, and it's really good.
I'll wait until it's got a few, like at least triple digits in the chapters.
Okay, that's fair.
Because like once it hits chapter 100, usually they're safe.
Usually,
So
you do get some odd ones out, like Siren.
let's not talk about Siren.
I never read
Poor,
it, so I
poor
don't know.
Siren. Poor Siren.
Yeah, that's more the exception than the rule. If it hits 100 chapters, it's probably there.
Chapter 35, Fuzzy. Chapter 35.
Fine, I'll give it another shot, but it's just like I've been burned so many times.
Well, you can stand to be burned one more time.
I'd really prefer not to be. Is the thing.
I've been burned several more times than you in a physical sense.
I mean,
Yeah, but like when we're talking about emotional burns, not physical ones.
I have also been burned quite a few times in an emotional sense.
I mean, my dude, I lost Beast Children and Phantom Seer, and yet I'm starting.
Yes.
And yet I'm starting.
You lose them.
And yet I'm starting the fucking new series about pianos that I am like 90% certain is gonna fucking die.
That's your own fault.
I know.
It's no one's fault. The first time it's Jump's fault. The second time it's also Jump's fault. Now it's all still Jump's fault, but it's kind of your fault for falling for it again.
I know, it's going to die a horrible death, and I'm going to get invested, and it's going to be terrible, but I can't help it.
Like,
At least
Phantom Seer and Beast Children at least had a chance. Sports and Phantom Seer, Sports and
Phantom Shear could have lived. It could have been the new Jujutsu Kaisen.
But the author chose Jump. And that's really his fault.
At least I have Elusive Samurai in Blue Box.
Again, I'd hold out for at least 100 chapters before I get attached.
Elusive Samurai is not dying. There is an absolutely zero chance.
It has the author behind Assassination Classroom.
They have literally given
Writing
it
it.
half a dozen fucking color pages in its first 20 chapters.
Wait. Didn't the author of Assassination Classroom also do an incredibly yikes one-shot?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so I'm like more inclined, I'm not necessarily inclined to believe in that author. Because that one-shot was really not okay.
Yeah.
What
So
the
many
fuck happened
ways.
to that one shot?
I don't
It
want to
was
talk
in-
about it.
It's creepy and sexist in ways that I can barely even comprehend.
Elusive Samurai is a lot better. It has murder children.
I'll look it up on my own.
It's called Fken.
Okay.
In fairness, the who were they? I think the Promised Neverland team did a one shot recently that was pretty yikes as well.
Wait, really?
DC3. I can't remember if it was yikes or just bad.
Link
I'm pretty sure it was just bad.
in the
I
chat
heard nothing
at some
about
point.
it yet.
It's one of the two. It wasn't
Regardless,
good at the
we're
very
getting
least.
off track.
We're also running out of material, and we've been going for over 2 hours, so I believe it's about time.
Probably a good time to call it, yeah.
So that's all we have for you today. Shonen Protagonists, they're a lot of fun. They are not quite as varied as we wish they would be. But they are in some sense. I just remembered the piano manga is going to be even more tragic when it gets axed because the ending is set to be super tragic.
Oh, no.
There's a dying mother who's got 2 years.
Oh, no.
It's so going to end with her death, and it's going to be awful. And it's going to break me along with the fact that it's getting axed. Anyway.
Also, just something completely irrelevant to the context that is technically an MHA spoiler, but I think Mill can handle it.
Yes?
There's a furry waifu now? MHA?
I thought there already was.
No, like,
There's another
even
one.
more furry.
Okay.
And tall.
Very tall furry waifu.
I mean,
yes.
We're starting to understand what Horikoshi likes, but anyway. So future streams. Sunday is D&D. We are on our way to Black Rain. That's going to be fun. Tuesday, are we finally getting to Vermeer, Fuzzy?
Yes.
Okay, we are finally getting to Vermeer. Fingers crossed. If not, it'll be Psychonauts 2. But fingers crossed we are finally getting to Vermeer. We've been promising it for like a month. More than a month, probably. Month and a half. But we will get there.
You get distracted by loot and side quests.
Yeah. We still have more side quests to do, by the way.
We'll do them after Vermeer.
I've finished all the fetch quests, but in doing so I discovered more side quests to do.
Oh
so.
no.
So we probably have a stream's worth there.
Welcome to the RPG rabbit hole.
Now, so thank you everyone for joining us, and I will leave it to my co-hosts.
Goodbye, Fuzzy. So yeah, Tuesday, Mass Effect, Vermeer. Please believe us when we say we'll finally get there this time. That means Thursday will probably be Psychonauts 2. We apparently have the power to actually make it up the waterfall, which is great. So I'm looking forward to that. And then next Saturday, Dresden Files, books 6 and 7. So Blood Rights and Deadbeat.
Oh, this is gonna be a fun one.
Hooray! We get to talk about the porn star ritualists. So yes, that is what you have to look forward to in the coming week from the Storytime Network. For more info, please do follow us on Twitter and make sure to follow us on Twitch so you get notifications of when we go live. Subscribe to us on YouTube where all the archives are going up. I believe our tier maker talk for Anime of 2020 went up today, and our fight against the Ancient White Dragon goes up tomorrow. If you go on the Twitter, you'll actually find the results of both our tier maker streams now. I have finally remembered to put them up. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Later.